Hello, everybody. Welcome to Emergency Nerds. What you might ask? What would get me to do anything, let alone come on YouTube Live when I have COVID? Well, it turns out um, that Jack Smith has filed a superseding indictment against Donald in his election interference case, and uh, there's every possibility that this new indictment is taking into account the Supreme Court's, or I should say, the illegitimate corrupt supermajority of the Supreme Court's ruling in on presidential immunity. So thankfully for all of you and me, uh, law professor Jen Tabb is with us because one, Jen, I'm not a lawyer, nor do I play one on TV. And two, aforementioned COVID, I am incoherent and babbling and very tired, and I can't see. So I'm very grateful for your expert guidance in this matter. This this seems like a big deal.
Yeah, Mary, this is a big deal, and it's as we might call it in today's parlance, a really Wallsy move.
Is it
On
also,
behalf,
though, just as in homage to our still president Joe Biden, is it a big fucking deal?
it is a BFD because although it wasn't entirely a surprise, as you may remember, Jack Smith had indicated earlier this month that he wasn't in a hurry to respond to Judge Chutkan. So
Right.
let's just back up. The Supreme Court, we know, in early July decided this immunity case and expanded the immunity that a former president would have with regard to actions he took while he was president. So all kinds of things that prior to that decision we would have thought could get a former president indicted. Remember that we don't indict because of a DOJ policy. We don't indict sitting presidents, but after they leave office, there was a whole swath of bad actions they could have taken, meaning violating federal law, that they could have been indicted for. And now the Supreme Court expanded that. But, because the wheels of justice grind slowly, or whatever they say, the judge didn't
Well,
actually
the
get her.
fine, also known as not at all.
Yes. The judge only got the decision like in August officially. And so she said, okay, we're ready to go. I want to know from Donald Trump's lawyers and from the special counsel, Jack Smith, how should we proceed in light of this decision? And he said, I'm not going to respond to that. I'm not in a hurry. But instead, what he did, it being what is it today? The 27th of August? Is it the 28th now? I can't even remember.
The 27th.
Still the 27th all day long. He said, hi, guys, here is a superseding indictment. And what that means, part of it is self-evidence. It supersedes the one that he had filed previously last summer, last August, right? And so that one goes away. And what you should know is that a new grand jury examined the evidence and returned nearly the same indictment on the same charges against Donald Trump. Now, what is the difference, you might ask, Mary? Is that what you're going to ask me?
That is not what I was going to ask you.
Okay, then ask what you would like.
A prescient question, nonetheless. Just hang on for 1 second, because I just I want to remind people why. Well, I don't know if we know from his mouth, but what the speculation it was about why Jack Smith brought down such a narrow indictment in the first place. Like, I think that other people could have been indicted. He laser focused on Donald, and this case was the very diametric opposite of the Georgia case, which is a sprawling RICO case. So why was it what was the conventional wisdom about why Smith did that? And is this basically his saying, well, that's all out the window now, let's do it this other way?
Okay, so is it that you are wondering why in the initial indictment he did not charge him with the sort of insurrection type statute? Like, I think is that what you're saying? Because let me go through what he did charge with and say what people thought he left
Well,
out.
well, I'm
And
asking
actually,
why
let me answer in a
was
more simple way. It's easier. The statutes that Jack Smith used initially, Mary, and the ones now have a long history of being quite successful. Judge courts know how they work, and they have not been overturned. There's a long history of them being used previously.
right. But I was also asking, like, why it was such a focused case. Like, he could, why were there no co-conspirators? And I'm just gonna answer the question the way I
There
understand.
were there were co-conspirators, but they just weren't named. There were six unnamed co-conspirators in that
But the
case.
indictments focus on Donald.
Absolutely,
That's my
yes.
right. So, and that's because time was of the essence, and Smith wanted to keep it tight and fast. Is that correct, or am I just
Yeah, I mean, I think having a focused indictment that would be easier to move forward, and it was moving forward. If you remember, it was supposed to go to trial
right,
in May. So that was the initial idea for sure.
right,
Yes.
and that was foiled by the corrupt, illegitimate supermajority of the Supreme Court. Cool.
Right,
Okay.
exactly.
So, um, all of that having been said, here we are a year later. By the way, a year later, but 3.5 years after the original crime was committed in front of
Right.
our eyes. So what leads you to believe that this will go more smoothly, or is it just a question of time isn't of the essence anymore? So let's just charge him with what he should be charged with.
Oh,
Why
I
not?
think I have the benefit of having read the superseding indictment, and there are no additional charges.
Ah, okay.
So
So
let me
you also
clarify a
have the
couple of
benefit
things.
of being able to read. So that's also
Yes, I don't have COVID, short or long COVID at the moment. And so I actually can read the indictment, which literally we just saw moments ago. And so to clarify, the thing that we wished, and that you, I think, are alluding to, Mary, that he'd initially charged Donald with and did not, is some kind of seditious conspiracy, right? And he didn't. And I think there were valid legal reasons for thinking that might not be successful, and so this is what he went with. Now, how this, I haven't been able to compare both indictments, but what I have the benefit of is Norm Eisen, who you may know. He's part of Crew, Citizens
Mhm,
for Responsibility Ethics in Washington, and
mhm,
he also writes for Just Security. And a while ago, he went through, after the Supreme Court's immunity decision, he went through the original indictment from last August and highlighted the parts that he thought might have to be stripped out. And he highlighted them in different colors. And color green, like this should be fine, color orange, caution, and obviously red, uh-oh. And if you go back and look, the parts that he highlighted being in red were, for a lot of them, taken out. So the good news is the charges the charges against Donald Trump stay the same. What's different is some of the factual basis that is laid out in this superseding indictment just takes out some of the co-conspirators. But nothing else, as far as I can see, it doesn't seem to have been narrowed substantially as a result of that. Now, keep in mind, this is my live take, but
yeah.
if you'd like, I can give, we have so many viewers. Hey guys, it's so nice to see you here. And oh, hi. Hi, Carol. She said, hi, Mary and Jen. Anyway, I'm happy to tell you what seems to have been pulled out as an example which does not interfere, so to speak, in these charges against him. But,
Yeah, I mean, so are you saying that um, he is taking into account the Supreme Court ruling in a way that sort of bulletproofs this from their
yes.
meddling further?
My goodness, you said it better than I could. Yes, for
Well,
sure.
the benefit of being completely delirious, I
Let me
suppose.
say, I wouldn't exactly say bulletproof, but I would say maybe a plexiglass shield around it.
Well, that's true because, again, this is the most corrupt Supreme Court in American history, and I would not be surprised if they said, "Well, we don't care because we have all of the power and you don't have any."
Now,
But
let me tell you
still,
what's a problem, though. So, like, I guess there's two, because I'm going to use my brain to
you're
process
going to tell me
what
there are problems. I need to feel better. Come on, give me
no,
the
no, no,
good.
no. So let me just step back and not talk legal shit right now and get to the big picture, and then we'll drill down. The
Gotcha.
big picture is there ain't going to be a trial before November, but I
Oh
think
my
we knew
God,
that.
no, they're not going to be trial before November 2025.
No, this one will go to trial.
Oh,
Unless he is elected, this one will go to
right,
trial in early
right.
2025.
Can you just?
That,
I just want to stop there for a second because I think so much is going on. And I think we just kind of gloss over just how abhorrent that is. Donald Trump, and this is why they're going to cheat. I mean, they may not succeed, but they are going to cheat. Um, this is why they're trying so hard to get back into the White House because he knows that if he does and he gets that power again, all of these federal cases will go away. He will get away with inciting an insurrection against our own government. He will get away. He won't even need Aileen Cannon anymore, who will be on the Supreme Court within the next couple of years. He will get away with selling our most highly sensitive classified documents to the highest bidder, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I just want to pause on that for a second to remind people one, how stupid our system is. I mean, that's just like the, I find that insane and self destructive. But also, it just adds to the stakes in a way that you wouldn't know if you watched or read or listened to mainstream corporate media.
yeah, I mean, what you're describing, if I can use a tennis metaphor,
Please do.
um,
Those are my favorite kinds.
I am not a good tennis player for a number of reasons, not least of which is I have terrible hand-eye coordination and I fall down a lot. I think you
It's
can
kind of
vouch.
compulsory. Yeah.
But there's that sweet spot, right? And if you don't
Oh,
hit the ball in that sweet spot, and that's kind of how hard it is in this case for Jack Smith, both in terms of trying to bring these, to try to move even this case forward. And so one thing you're talking about is, you can't even, because of this ridiculous memo, you can't indict a sitting president. I don't think you could even put them on trial. I'm not entirely sure. We haven't tested that. That's just a policy at the federal level.
yeah.
And then, secondly, of course, we have this complexity of the Supreme Court after this indictment came down, squeezing down the possibilities of what can be included. And so this is where I want to be like as clear as possible, because this is what's important here. Although the charges remain the same in this document, so we're still talking about conspiracy to defraud the United States, which just means to interfere in the election. It doesn't have to involve money. It's interfering with kind of any government. Conspiracy to defraud the United States basically means entering into an agreement with someone, at least one other person, to try to defeat some function of government, right? And so that was
They
everything.
he incited people to try to defraud the American people of a free and fair election.
Right. And then there's also interference. There's a separate interference in election charges on a different statute. And then there's like these obstruction of an official proceeding type charges, conspiracy to obstruction of official proceeding and obstruction of official proceeding. Now, going through all of this, those charges remain the same in here. The complexity, though, is two things. One, this case as well as another case the Supreme Court heard. So let's talk about in this indictment. Because some of the co-conspirators are stripped out, let me just be even more specific. At the beginning of any indictment, there's a factual background. And then after you see that, they say, and therefore, here are the charges. And so the main description of the factual background appears with this first conspiracy to defraud the United States, in depriving us of this free and fair election. In that factual description, I'm pretty sure they pulled out the conversations he had with people like Mike Pence. That's what I'm gathering here, but I'm not entirely sure because these are coded. But to the extent that the Mike Pence conversation isn't in the indictment, or the DOJ official isn't in the indictment anymore, that's because Jack Smith realizes that's the area where the Supreme Court, you can't indict on that. But what's even more important is the Supreme Court said you can't even bring that into evidence. So you hear what I'm saying here. So anything pulled out of this indictment doesn't just sort of, okay, well, that's not there. It can't be the basis not only for these charges, but they can't even bring those people into court. That's one problem. The second problem, though, is several of these charges are still obstruction of an official proceeding. And as you know, there were some people, the Supreme Court heard these cases and said that throughout the indictments of some people involved in the insurrection, suggesting that doing things like committing violence and hurting people to put off the official proceeding of counting the votes at the Electoral College, that wouldn't fly. So it's not entirely clear. I know the Donald Trump situation is different because a lot of what the obstruction related to was the fake electors and other things, right? But, there's complexity here. I was glad to see those charges still in here tonight. After we finish talking, I'm going to look side by side at the two indictments and actually sort of see precisely who's been stripped out and who hasn't.
Yeah, if I'm remembering correctly, something like 15 pages were stripped out of the original indictment to accommodate the Supreme Court ruling. I believe that's what I read.
You just read that now?
No, before we came on.
15 pages. Okay.
Something like that.
Yeah, I mean, it's 35 pages long, and the other one was, let's see, I don't know. I don't know if the other one was that many more pages long, so we will see.
All right.
Yeah,
Well, you
so
cannot possibly expect me to be able to subtract right now, but it was some number of pages.
Yeah, I mean, I'm trying to, I could, if I were reading it, I would know more. But what I'm going to do is look at my, Katie Fang, our friend on Twitter, who is doing the reading. Yeah, I mean, I'm trying to see if she, she has not read probably any more than I have on this. So yeah, I mean, I'm doing what I can see on the fly. But I think the two takeaways are there's not going to be a trial before November,
Right.
And that a new grand jury was able to come to the conclusion that they were going to indict him. This case moves forward despite the efforts of the Supreme Court to immunize Donald Trump from any possible, criminal case at the federal level or any level.
So to put it in layperson's terms,
yeah.
Is this and you've already, I just want to make sure that I'm getting it right. Because if I can understand it at this point, anybody can understand it. That essentially what Jack Smith did when the case went back to Judge Juckin and she was like, all right, let's do this thing. She like hit the ground running and said, okay, Donald's side, Jack Smith's side, ready to go when you are. And that's when Jack Smith said, I'm not in any rush anymore. because no matter what happens, there is no way this is going to trial before the election. So, gonna slow my roll, which is something I've never said in my life before, and will hopefully never
Slow
say
my roll. Mary Trump
again.
said it today, 8/27/24. It could be the COVID speaking.
We're fixing that in post because I'm getting
No
quite.
way. Mercedes, don't listen to her. There's
All
no,
right,
yeah. She
all
says,
right.
nope, no
That's
fixing
like
it.
blackmail material. So he's like, we are going to make sure that this superseding indictment follows the rules that the Supreme Court, the insane, unconstitutional rules, the corrupt, illegitimate super majority just handed down, and essentially, make it that much more difficult for them for Donald's team to win on appeal because hey, we did exactly what you guys told us to do, so we're gonna do this right, and we're gonna take
It's
our time.
it's even worse than that because it would
Wait,
be,
worse
it'd
for
be,
whom?
it's even worse if they had not fixed this. If they had not fixed this properly, we don't
Who's
even, let me
they?
just back up.
Who's they?
If Jack Smith, this new indictment,
Yeah,
you know, the problem would be there is the indictment, right? And I'm sure Donald's team is going to say, you can make a motion to dismiss an indictment, right? You can go into court and say you want this indictment dismissed. So they're going to challenge this indictment,
of
which is
course.
good that it happens before the trial, right? Because if any facts or testimony comes in the trial that is related to immunized activity, the case gets thrown out. So you really want this. This is going to take a while. It's going to come up to the Supreme Court again. And at trial, these prosecutors have to be really disciplined to make sure they keep the testimony confined to what would pass muster with the United States Supreme Court. This is complicated stuff, but Jack Smith is smart. There's no reason to rush this now. You can only have one chance to get this one right at this point.
Yeah, I mean, hopefully, and if these, if the backflips that have to be flipped and the hoops that have to be jumped through aren't warning flares to us that our system is not healthy. I'm not sure what else would be. I mean, because again, it's not just this case. It's also that
Right.
it's the case in Florida. Now, I know it's easy to say it's all alien canon. Well, guess what? It's the system that allows for that one corrupt judge to hold that much sway in a case of such enormous import. That's a problem, so
I have an update for you, Mary. So, confirming one thing I said earlier and adding to it. So, I encourage folks, stay tuned here, but if you can multitask, if you're watching us on your computer or your phone, make a note or multitask. Kyle Cheney on Twitter, and I can just tell you what he's saying if you don't have Twitter. Kyle D. Cheney. He writes for Politico. He's quite good. And what he has laid out, as I suspected, is the DOJ official, co-conspirator 4. That's thought to be Jeffrey Clark, right? Wasn't he like acting? He wasn't acting AG. He was below. I forgot what role he had
he was
toward the end.
an
He was
assistant
inside the DOJ, right?
something. Wasn't he the
Associate.
one who wanted to take over?
Yes. And they threw a fit, so that didn't happen.
Yeah.
Well, he's been removed. So there were it appears that he has been removed from this. And also, appears that any efforts that Trump did to commandeer the DOJ in support of overturning the the results of the election have been taken out.
But Jen,
Also, to
I just want
yeah,
to just stop you for a
yes,
sorry. Give me a sec.
yeah,
I mean, can we just put it in these blunt terms? That's because anything that Donald did that involved an official in his administration or an agency in his administration could be construed as an official act, which the Supreme Court says is not allowed. You're not allowed to. You are not allowed to charge official acts because if if you're doing it in your capacity with other, as as the guy in the Oval Office, with people
yes,
who work for the
yes,
government, even if you're trying to
right.
plan
You
a
can't look at
coup,
motive. You're not
or
allowed to look at motive. That's what they
even if
said. You
you're
just
trying to
look at
murder
right.
your
Yep,
political appointment. So
right.
it can only be people who were outside of the administration, only people outside of the government, only communications outside of what could be even slightly construed as an official act. Is that correct?
Yes, and what the court said on this is, presidents talk to high level people in the DOJ, and he was talking to him. So there you go. I mean, I'm
They were
simplifying it,
just
but exactly right.
spitballing.
And by the way you can find out that co-conspirator number two is left out is that you see paragraph A through F, and it says co-conspirator one, blah, 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 two, blah, 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 three, blah, 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 and then four is just missing. They just took it out.
It's a reasonable
So that's one way
indication.
to, that's,
Yeah.
close reading of the document. Also taken out is a big chunk, as Kyle put it, was missing. There was a whole section on Donald's mental state, which don't, this is your time to make a joke about that, Mary. Um, there's a chunk about Donald's mental state that
Denial.
was
Sorry.
okay. So this paragraph was taken out. It says this was from last August. It was in there. The header is this is above paragraph 12 in the original indictment. The defendant's knowledge of the falsity of his election fraud claims. And there's this whole paragraph saying throughout the conspiracies, the defendant, meaning Donald, and his co conspirators and their agents made knowingly false claims that there had been outcome determinative fraud in the election, blah, 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 blah. And they knew it was false. So that came out of here. Instead, what they do instead of that paragraph is they made, instead of talking about his knowledge, the new superseding indictment made a long list, and actually the VP is mentioned here, so that wasn't taken out. But they talked about going through item by item of facts that relate to the fact that the election was accurately and not fraudulently decided. Some enhancements, though, that Cheney points out, it wasn't just subtraction, and this is key. There's two paragraphs that talk about how Donald Trump would move back and forth between his private interests and activity, his unofficial activity, and his official activity.
Okay. Well, I mean, it sounds like Jack Smith is doing his best to walk the tightrope, and I'm happy to see it. I mean, I'm horrified that it's necessary, but I'm happy to see it. And just looking ahead, as you said, it's whatever, August 27th, and we're 3 weeks out from New York. The New York, well, we don't know if it's a hearing or sentencing, but because the Supreme Court ruling affected any legal case having to do with Donald Trump. So it's going to be interesting. But Jed, I so appreciate your hopping on at the last minute, because I could not have done this alone. I mean, I could have, but nobody would have learned anything. Which,
Well,
you know,
you know, I'm so glad I got to do this, Mary, because it just lit a fire under me and it made my plan for Morning Jen tomorrow really crystal clear. I know there'll probably be other breaking news. I'll have other things to talk about. But guys, if you're listening now, and I know there's like thousands of you, if you don't yet follow me, I'm part of the Mary Trump Media Network, but I have a separate channel. It's at Jen Taub. Go there now and follow if you don't. Oh, sorry, subscribe for free if you don't already. Every morning, Monday through Friday, I have a show called Morning Jen. It's between 20 and 35 minutes. Oh, look, follow at Jen Taub. And that's my Twitter handle as well. And I also have a Saturday show at 4 p.m. called Weekend Jen because I don't want to miss out. 2 days is too long not to see you all. So please tune in tomorrow, 8 a.m. live, and I will know this thing cold. I promise you. I might even have some pictures and, funny faces that Donald's making because he's disappointed with this. And of course, he's going to freak out on True Social. So I'll have some screenshots of that as well.
Yeah, listen, any day that has Donald freaking out is a good day. So, and also, guys, if you haven't already subscribed here, please do. It helps us a lot. And I've missed doing the shows. But I'm sick. So
Mary, thank you for coming on. You're near death's door with this COVID. I'm sorry that you finally caught it.
Well, hopefully I'm not near death.
Oh, not near death's door. I mean, you're way far away. I mean,
yes,
near, like millions of miles.
I just feel like I'm at death's door. But if anybody, I think I was the only person who never got COVID, and I'm quite sad that I've joined the ranks. I did my best, I swear, but I understand. It's creepy. It's like the creepiest way to be sick. So maybe I'll feel okay tomorrow. Maybe I'll feel worse in a whole new way. Who knows? But as soon as I am feeling better, I'll be back making videos. I hope to be able to join the nerds on Thursday, but unfortunately, I'm just gonna have to take it one day at a time. Because in addition to saying things I've never said before, I also speak in cliches now. So that's
what was
happening.
that thing that you said earlier, Mary, that you didn't want us to remind you of?
Stop that. That's just mean to kick a person when she's down. My God.
But I already forgot about it. Maybe can someone in the chat tell us?
All right. Hey, people, my friends in the chat.
Mary's friends in the chat, quickly tell me, what was that cliche that she said?
If you are my friends, you will not tell me the embarrassing thing I said. That very millennial.
Yes, she's taking Paxlovid. Yes, she is. Don't worry.
Yes,
I'm responding to people. Yeah.
Yeah. So in addition to thanking you for joining us, thank you for your comments and your support. I've been really out of it, but I've been told that everybody's been checking it on me. I really, really appreciate it. I'm doing everything I'm supposed to be doing except sitting up and doing YouTube live. So before my doctor catches me out, we're gonna wrap it up. But thank you again. Leave it to Donald to just to keep doing horrible things.
Oh my gosh, Mary, you should slow your roll.
And we were doing so well. So on that note, can you mute her? Yeah, thank you. On that note,
sorry.
Yeah, that is.
You need to laugh.
No, I'll cough, which would not be good for anybody. So anyway, thank you so much, Jen and Mercedes, for putting this together so last minute. But that's what Donald Trump, he's such a criminal that these things keep happening and will continue to happen until we put him in our rearview mirror and not our side view mirror, because remember, in the side view mirror, objects are closer than they appear. We want him to be as far away as he appears and put him way in the distance, in the past, and on the pile, the heap of irrelevancy or whatever.
Dustbin of history. Let's do all of the cliches.
Prison. Exactly.
Prison.
Let's leave it at prison. All right. I'm going to go sleep. Jen is going to go prepare Morning Jen. Mercedes is going to go do what Mercedes does, which is basically everything. Somebody's got to do
True.
everything.
That's true.
But again, thanks so much. We will see you. The nerd Jen will be here at 8 o'clock. The nerds will be back at 12, and I'll be sending in videos as I
On
can.
Thursday.
Everybody, stay safe. Be kind to each other, and for God's sakes, don't get COVID. Wear a freaking mask and get your booster shot. The new one's coming out soon. Thank you all so much, and we'll see you next time.